that is malware, which has become a security threat to the internet economy. Almost every one of us we are very much familiar with the term malware, isn't it? So can anyone of you tell me where this word had actually been derived from? Anyone?
Malicious software.
Exactly so. Hence, we can tell that the term malware is nothing but a linguistic blend of the words malicious and software. But what is malware? It is basically a software or a program that is intentionally designed in order to cause harm to your computer, the server, the client, or even the computer network. And there are various types of malwares which we will be coming across very shortly. But what sort of harm does it do to your computer? It can perform functions such as stealing information, it can delete sensitive data, it can perform encryption, it can alter the core computing functions, and it can even monitor the user's computer activity without their permission. Can you even imagine yourself being watched without your knowledge? Isn't it terrifying? It is. Now, behind every theory, there exists a history. So let's take a quick look at the history of malware. A very brief look at the history of malware shows us that this malicious menace has been with us since the dawn of computing itself. Firstly, it was the Scientific American, which is a popular American science magazine in the US, and it said that the idea of viruses extends back in 1949, when John von Neumann wrote The Theory and Organization of Complicated Automata. This was a paper that postulated how a computer program could reproduce itself, or in other words, it could self-replicate. In 1950, the employees at the Bell Labs gave shape to Neumann's idea, and they gave birth to the game Core Wars. Then came up the Creeper worm. This was another experimental self-replicating worm which was written by Bob Thomas at the BBN Technologies in 1970. This creeper worm gained access, and what it did was it copied itself to remote systems and moved from one mainframe to the other while displaying a message that said, "I am the creeper, catch me if you can." And other viruses and worms started appearing in the Apple and IBM PCs in the early 1980s with the introduction of World Wide Web. But all this while, none of the scientists did really use the term malware for these viruses and worms. It was Israel Radai, a security researcher, who used the term malware for the very first time in 1990. Now enough of history. Who even likes history? So let's quickly jump onto how malware enters our PC. There are various ways. Firstly, being spam emails. Then it may enter through those infected removable drives, hacked or compromised web pages, and it may even come bundled with other softwares. Talking of spam emails, almost every now and then we receive emails which say that it's a receipt for a delivery, a tax refund, or an invoice. We also receive emails which say that you have won this amount, you can apply for this, that, and whatnot, isn't it? It is basically the malicious authors who try to convince you to download those malicious files. Taking this example of an email which I had myself received in the year 2018, and it seemed to be sent from the SBI, that is the State Bank of India, which demanded a transaction of Rs 871. But wait, can you even spot the currency written by the amount mentioned? No. And so far my knowledge said, I never had such transaction in the month of September in 2018. And that is when I was convinced that this has to be a spam. Had I clicked onto this link, I would have definitely ended up installing malware into my PC. Malware also enters through those infected removable drives, right? Pen drives being the most common example. Worms start spreading in your PC as soon as you attach those USB flash drives or external hard drives to your PC. It may also come with those hacked or compromised web pages. What the malware does is, it uses the known software vulnerabilities in your PC. Here, a vulnerability is basically a hole in your software which gives access to malware to enter the PC. And you're all hacked. Finally, it may also come bundled with other software. This includes those softwares which we download from those third-party websites or from those files which have been shared through peer-to-peer network, as a result of which unnecessary toolbars and pop-up ads start appearing as you browse the web. Now, let us discuss what the ill effects of malware are. Numerous types of malware are used either separately or in combination to ruin the confidentiality and integrity of data. And a range of attacks are conducted, such as denying access to critical information systems. Denial of access to digital data on network services is a very common goal of attack these days, and this is usually done for sabotage or destruction. Secondly, it is also done for extorting money. Here, malwares are designed to encrypt the user's data so that he or she is unable to retrieve it, as a result of which the person is asked to pay a ransom for the key that had been used to encrypt their data. Thirdly, it is also used for espionage. Now, what is espionage? It is just another term for spying. Malwares are used for spying on those business and government operations to gain those information that could be critical to national security as well. And lastly, it's all about stealing information such as those passwords and authentication credentials, where online identity theft has become a very important concern these days with the rise of backdoor Trojans. Now let's take a quick look at the different types of malware that we will be discussing. The very first that we have is spyware. Then we have ransomware, adware, viruses, worms, Trojan horse, backdoors, rootkits, keyloggers, the logic bombs, and the zombie, which will further be elaborated by my fellow speaker, Rishita Sengupta.
Thank you, Srijita. Now that we have learned what malwares are, it becomes necessary to know the different types of malware. Firstly, spyware. A spyware logs our data by activity monitoring, data monitoring, keystroke monitoring, and uses these data without our knowledge. A spyware may enter our computer when we access other legitimate softwares such as adware. Now, what are adwares? While browsing the websites, we have often come across some annoying advertisements, right? Such as these. These ads, no matter how many times we close them, they do not go anywhere. These pop-up ads are generated by a software called adware, which is a short for advertising supported software. Now usually, adwares are not harmful. They only help in gaining revenue for the companies that they are advertising, but they have the scope to be. When they come bundled with other malwares such as spyware, they can hijack our browser and lead us to unsafe websites. They can also steal our data to customize advertisements for our needs. Now suppose one day you try to log into your computer but find that you cannot. A nightmare, right? This is the work of a ransomware. A ransomware holds our computer captive and asks us to pay a ransom so that we can gain our access back. Out of all the ransomware types, the one of importance is a CryptoLocker. What it does, it encrypts all the files present in our computer system so that we cannot access them. And in order to receive the decryption key to decrypt those files, we have to pay a ransom. Now, while we talk about different types of malware, what is the type that comes to your head first? Anyone? Yes, viruses. Viruses are one of the most common types of malware. But what makes viruses so common? They have the ability to replicate and spread throughout a computer system. What they do is, they open up all the files present in our computer system and latches its code to those files, thus turning them into new viruses. Once our computer gets infected with the virus, it can send spam mails, install other malwares, and turn our computer into a botnet. Similar to viruses, worms can also replicate and spread throughout a computer system. But there is a fine difference between a virus and a worm. Does anyone know it? No? Okay, worms do not need any human intervention. They can replicate on their own. But a virus needs to be activated by us, the users, before it can spread throughout a computer system. Worms often contain lines of codes called payloads that enables the worm to perform other operations other than just replicating, like generating spam mails, turning our computer into bots, creating other malwares, etc. Now, perhaps one of the most dangerous of all the malware types is a Trojan horse. The name Trojan horse comes from the Greeks, who disguised themselves inside a wooden horse and fooled the Trojans into letting them in their city. Much in the same way, a Trojan horse fools us into thinking that it is a normal useful file. Once we download it, it enters our computer system and wreaks havoc. It can steal our data, our credentials, and whatnot. A very famous example of a Trojan horse is the Archivius of 2006. It encrypted all the files and folders present in the My Documents folder of the Windows users. And then the users had to pay a ransom so that they could get their access back. This is a very famous example on how a Trojan horse can work well with other malwares such as a ransomware in this case. Now talking about malwares, how do these malicious authors get access to a computer? When a robber tries to enter a house, what does it use? A backdoor, right? Similarly, a backdoor is used to give access to our computer to remote third-party users by bypassing the normal authentication procedure. That is, they don't have to log in or use any other face lock or some other passwords to enter our computer system. Once they enter our computer system, they can do whatever they want with our computers. But how do we create these backdoors? These backdoors are created using a software called a rootkit. The root here comes from Unix, where the root is the supreme user or the administrator. A rootkit is a little different from the normal malwares. Other malwares act as applications on top of the operating system, whereas a rootkit acts as part of the operating system, modifies the operating system, creating a vulnerability. Now after backdoors, next slide. Keyloggers. What keyloggers do is, they record all the data that we type into our computer. Every day we type so much information in our computer keyboards, right? So what if someone were to steal that data right from our keyboard? Very harmful. Now, suppose a person wants to activate a virus launch or a malware attack only when a particular event has occurred. This is achieved by a logic bomb, which activates a malicious code only when a particular circumstance has been met. Now suppose our computer has gotten infected with malwares. What happens next? A program called a zombie program comes into play. It turns our computer into a bot, thus acting as a host for spreading these malwares further to other computers connected in a network, thus forming a network of bots called a botnet. This topic will be further discussed by my friend Madhuparna Paja.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we are all aware of cybercrimes, right? A botnet is a network of malicious information and it is downloaded by other softwares. Now, a bot is generally used to do attacks against other computer systems. Now, how are these botnets created? These botnets are created by vulnerabilities in computer systems, exploiting these vulnerabilities with malware and inserting malwares into those systems. Now, whom are these botnets maintained by? These botnets are maintained by malicious actors called bot herders or bot masters who can control these botnets remotely. Next, we will see the relationship between the botnet lifecycle and malware. Now, when a malware infects an information system, two things can happen. It can either steal some information, money, information, authentication credentials, or it can itself become a part of a botnet. Now, as soon as it becomes a part of a botnet, it scans for vulnerabilities in other computer systems, like it attacks computers with malware, launches denial of service attacks. What is denial of service attacks? It shuts down other computers or networks, making them inaccessible to the intended users. Hosts mule sites with rotating IP address, steals information, for example, host phishing site with rotating IP address. What is phishing? Phishing is the act of sending fraud emails to the users to steal their private information. Now, let us take a quick look on the effects of malware. Malware in computer firstly affects our PC performance, like it slows down. It also consumes our internet data, interferes your computer activities like pop-up ads And it also destroys your computer applications like MS Word, Adobe Reader, steals your personal information, encrypts your files, making them inaccessible. Malware can also hijack your browser to redirect you to sites for its purposes. It can also send you spam emails to your inbox. Now, how can you understand that your computer has been affected with malware? Firstly, strange computer behaviors, and mails and messages are sent automatically without the knowledge of the user. There seems to be a lot of network activity even when you're not using the computer. The available memory space on your computer becomes very less than usual. Even programs or files starts appearing or disappearing without your knowledge. And file names may also be changed. Now, how can we protect our computer from these malicious malwares? How? Firstly, we should install an anti-malware software. Secondly, we should scan each and every application that we have downloaded. Also, verify the links, whether they are safe or not. And keep your software up to date. We also should back up our computer in Google Drives or external drives and use a very strong password and anti-spyware software, pop-up blockers, firewalls, and spam filters. Next, we come to the significant malwares that has been released from 2000 till today. First is the I love you worm. This worm sends attachments and emails to you and activates the Visual Basic script. This searches for files on your folders in all your local drives and overdrives these files. This has infected over 50 million computers, and it has also caused more than $5.5 billion damage. Second, in 2001 is the Anaconnikova virus. This virus lures the email users into opening a mail message that contains the pictures of this famous female tennis player named Anna Kournikova, where the malicious information is hidden. In 2003 is the Slammer worm. This worm lessens the speed of the computer, and it has infected over 75,000 computers within 10 minutes. 2004 is the Cabin virus. This is the first mobile phone infected virus, and the damage caused by this virus is very little. 2005 is the Coopface virus. Now, we are all into social media nowadays, right? This Coopface virus targets the social networking sites like Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, MySpace, etc. 2008 is the Confico worm. Now, this worm has infected millions of computers, and it has established the infrastructure of botnet. It has also targeted the vulnerabilities of operating systems. Next, in 2010 is the Stuxnet worm. Now, this worm was specially designed to do attacks against the Iran's nuclear programs, and it has also the ability to do harms to the hardware as well as the software. Now, in 2011 is the ZS Trojan worm. This is also called the Z-bot. The main function of this worm is to steals your banking information. Now, you have understood that why we have named our team ZS, which comes from this virus named ZS Trojan. In 2013 is the CryptoLocker ransomware. Now, this ransomware, it uses some Trojan which affects all your computer systems, especially the Microsoft Windows. In 2014 is the backup worm. This steals all your credit card data. And 2016 we have the Cerber ransomware. This Cerber ransomware is said to be the most active ransomware of all times, and it also affects all your files. In 2017, lastly, is the WannaCry ransomware. Now, this ransomware backs off and takes all your data and tells you to give a ransom, demands you to pay a ransom or lose everything. It has affected over 150 million countries, and it has affected also the hospitals, banks, and industries. Next, we have malware on Android, which will be further described by my friend Shanchari Rana.
Thank you, Madhuparna, and good afternoon, everyone. Let us discuss malware on Android. Since maximum of users present in this room are Android users, there is a question to you all. Do you know how to check malware on your Android? Anyone? It's not hard to tell a malware-affected computer, but a malware-affected phone behaves little differently. You may have a corrupted phone lurking with the shadows and you not even probably realize. There is no fans, no pop-up windows or any other symptoms that inform you that your phone is corrupted by malware. Imagine how dangerous it is. In 2010, Android OS.droid.sms.a was the first Android Trojan. What was it? This was a SMS prod app which subscribed your phone various SMS services. In the same year, another Trojan was discovered named TapSnake, which sends victims' GPS location. Now coming to the point, Android malware toolkits. What was it? Android malware toolkits are basically the tools which is created to malware. Now coming to an example, Mazeltop toolkit which dubbed an APK download system created in 2015 to facilitate malicious actors and spreading malware to Android devices. Now we have to know how our phone is impacted by malware. Means what is the size of malware affected phone? Our malware affected phone behaves in these ways. Firstly, your phone is too slow, apps takes longer to load, battery drains faster than expected. There is abundance of pop-up ads. Your phone have varieties of apps you don't even remember downloading. Unexplained data uses occur and higher phone bills arrive. Now, what's the way to prevent malware from Android? There are mainly 7 key points. At first, invest in and use robust security software and keep always up to date with system and software with the latest version. Never use unfamiliar and unsecure link in emails or text messages. And always use a very strong password and even a password manager. Use a very strong Wi-Fi connection and always use VPN. And then always strong cyber safety protection on all devices that connect to the internet. And the last one, always install app from secure source such as Google Play Store. Now, why should we be concerned about the malware? Means, what's the impacts of malware? I would mainly talking about the economical impacts on market players. There are mainly 3 types. At first, ISPs means Internet Service Providers, which is directly or indirectly impacted by malware in cases of cost and revenues. As malware steals data and increase internet traffic by spam, so extra cost is required. And the second is e-commerce or electronic commerce companies, which is directly or indirectly affected by malware. Many of them deals with DDoS attack, so extra protection is needed. And the last one is software vendors, which is affected by malware. Malware uses the weakness of their products to injure the machine, so extra awareness is required. Now I would like to hand over Rishita to show off the demonstration of malware. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanchali. Up until now, we have learned about the different aspects of malware. So enough with the theory. Let us see some examples. The first example that we are going to take here is a virus which deletes all the files present in the E drive of a user. Let us see the code here. So as you can see, it can delete all the files irrespective of their extensions present in the E drive. Let us see how this virus works when invoked. On being clicked, it starts to delete all the files present in the folder. Now someone here must be thinking, this virus is not that harmful. It is only deleting the files present in the E drive, right? But what if we were to modify the code and delete all the files present in the C drive? Then what would happen? We all know what's in the C drive, right? Then would it become harmful enough? So malwares originated as forms of pranks. In the history of malware, we learned that they originated as sort of pranks. In 2000, a worm called the IW worm was released. Let us see the code here. It prompts the user with a question. Do you love me? If the user says yes, it becomes happy and doesn't do anything. But if the user says no, it becomes sad and shuts down the whole computer within 3 seconds. Let us see the demonstration. As you can see, on prompted with yes, it doesn't do anything. But now, let's see what happens. It shuts down the computer. So, as you can see from these examples, malwares are quite harmful. These pieces of codes were created using Notepad, a simple tool like Notepad. You don't even have to have a deep knowledge about computer science or computer programming to create these simple viruses and malwares. To talk about the further advancements in the field of malware, I would like to call upon stage Srijita Chakraborty.
Thank you, Rishika. So far the future of malware is concerned, it is anticipated that it will no more be limited to just computers. It will start spreading among the smart devices and the number of attacks will increase day by day. Secondly, there will be a rise in those adaptive malwares which will learn from detection. What will happen? Once the malwares know the actions for which the antivirus software detects it, it will stop performing those actions. And it will take up new measures to infect the PC. Thirdly, the cloud storages will remain the largest target of malware. Now, why do you think that these cloud storages are so easy to be hacked by these cyber criminals? This is because the cloud storages do not implement those conventional security protocols such as Windows Defender or Firewall. And lastly, there might be some impersonation of trusted users as well. The malwares will easily learn the nuances of individuals' behavior. How? Through their writing styles in emails and through the social networking communications. And as a result, they will start crafting messages on the user's behalf which will be hardly distinguishable. And according to the latest reports from the Cyber Security Ventures, it says that the losses due to cybercrime, which also includes malware, are anticipated to hit almost $6 trillion by the end of 2021. And that's a huge sum, isn't it? So with this, we come to the end of our today's presentation. I would like to thank our Honorable Guest Judge, Professor Paramita Shikdar ma'am, for being with us throughout the day. I would also like to thank all the teachers of our department for encouraging us constantly throughout this past month, especially our guide, Professor Abhishek Desar, for being such an amazing mentor throughout this project. Thank you everyone for being here with us today.
Enjoyed your talk. It was a nice discussion on malware. It was very, you have done a good job in studying this topic. So